Hi, welcome to day 19 of 30 Days of Photoshop. I'm Kevin Aronson from Hampshire School of Photography, and today we take a very short look, very uncomplicated look at the whole issue of adjusting colour temperature in Photoshop. Colour balance. Now, I've got a feeling this is something that not a lot of people play around with, mainly because it feels kind of complicated that you can adjust the colour balance for shadows, midtones and highlights, and you've got the variety of sliders here to play around with, and which one do you slide where. I access this by clicking on the adjustments panel, which was tucked inside here, and what I'm looking for is this one with it looks like two scales being balanced. That's the one we want, and I've just created a copy which I'm now going to delete because I don't need it, and I just drag it into the trash can at the bottom. And once I click on the scales on here, up pops this window. There's blue one way, yellow the other, or green one way, magenta the other, or red one way, or cyan the other, across midtones, shadows and highlights. You can create a look, you can create a feel in the same way that colorists do on movies. So when you watch a film on television or in a cinema, every single scene in that film has been through the hands of a colorist who will play around with the color balance and create a different look and feel by color for every scene, so that it conveys emotions differently. So, maybe early in the morning they'll add a lot of blue to it, make it kind of look a bit, early morning sun before the sun's actually risen. Maybe in the afternoon it'll go towards kind of orangey reddy things, sunset. There might be a romantic look, but just what they do will vary depending on the mood they're trying to create. And you can apply that to your still images as well. And whether you select shadows, midtones or highlights, and it should be obvious what they are. Shadows means all the dark bits, highlights means all the bright bits, like the edge of my shirt, and midtones, well, skin tones, somewhere in between. So you can apply different colour shading to different elements of the image. And when you combine that with the mask, which you've got over here, you could actually literally type in or colour in a certain colour balance to a certain part of the picture just all on its own. Interesting thing when you start moving these things is that when you apply the blue, the picture seems to get a little bit brighter, but when you apply the yellow, if anything, it goes darker, and that looks darker to me than there. And that, to me, that looks as if it's gone a bit brighter. The highlights look brighter, and I'm only doing the midtones, and it's the same with the other colours. That's gone brighter, that's gone darker, and the top one, that's gone brighter, that's gone darker. Let's try it with shadows. Shadows, come on. Brighter, darker, yeah, brighter, darker. It does happen, which is why they got this preserve luminosity thing here. If you click that, then it tries to keep, best it can, it tries to keep the brightness levels about the same as they normally would be. It doesn't, in my opinion, work all the time, but it doesn't do a bad job. So what's going on here, that when you go towards the reds, the greens and the blues, it gets brighter, and when you go towards the cyans, the magentas and the yellows, it gets darker. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to reset all of that, and I'm going to hide it, and I'm actually going to bring out curves. Now, we've done curves. If you haven't done curves with me, then go back and find the curves tutorial. One of the things we talked about, and we didn't spend a lot of time on it, well, the obvious things, first of all, if you drag this to the left, the picture gets brighter, and if you drag it to the right, the picture gets darker. But if you choose a particular colour, and we'll choose blue, and you do the same thing as you draw it to the left, it gets bluer, but it gets brighter. If you go the other way, it goes the opposite of blue, which is yellow, and it gets darker. So you can see, from the point of view of the colour balance tools, they're really based on what's going on here in curves. So push it to the right, yes, it brings in the yellow, which is the opposite of blue, but the picture gets a little bit darker. And that's because moving the graph this side of the main curve line does darken the picture down. If I go back to the RGB where all three colours are used, pushing it down makes the picture darker. Pushing it up makes the picture brighter. So you can see, can't you, that the origins, I'm just going to close this down, the origins of colour balance really are based in the curves. But what they've done here, they've just made it easy for you to work with. It's much more convenient to work with a tool like this than it is to go into each curve to bring up the one for the red, the greens and the blue and adjust them individually. Here it's just laid out for you in a much more simple fashion. So there we go, that's colour balance. Have fun playing with that one. See, I told you it was going to be a short one. If you'd like to see all 30 episodes in this series, then check out phototeacher.blog, which is where I post most of my teaching. If you'd like to find out more about our physical one-to-one classes or group classes, workshops, whether they're one day, a few days or a whole year, then check out our training centre on our website. Our training centre is in Hampshire, in Fleet, which is North Hampshire, and there we teach Photoshop, Lightroom and lots on photography. And the address for that is gohsp.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.